Welcome to the YouTube channel Bookworm. Today we will listen to a brief retelling of the following book, Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. The story is told in the first person and is made up of reports written by the protagonist. 32-year-old mentally retarded Charlie Gordon lives in New York and works as a janitor in a private bakery where his uncle got him. He barely remembers his parents and younger sister. Charlie goes to a special school where teacher Alice Kinnean teaches him to read and write. One day, Miss Kinnean brings him to Professor Nemours and Dr. Strauss. They're running an intelligence-enhancing experiment, and they need a volunteer. Miss Kinnean proposes the candidacy of Charlie, the brightest student in her group. Since childhood, Charlie has dreamed of becoming smart and willingly agrees, although the experiment is associated with a risky operation. Psychiatrist and neurosurgeon Strauss tells him to write down his thoughts and feelings in the form of reports. There are many errors in Charlie's first reports. Charlie begins to take standard psychological tests, but fails. Charlie is afraid that he will not suit the professor. Gordon meets the mouse Algernon, who has already undergone surgery. The test subjects race through the maze, and Algernon is faster each time. On March 7th, Charlie is having surgery. For a while, nothing happens. He continues to work at the bakery and no longer believes that he will become smart. The bakery workers mock Charlie, but he does not understand anything and laughs along with those whom he considers friends. He does not tell anyone about the operation, and every day he goes to the laboratory to do tests. On March 29, Charlie completes the maze faster than Algernon for the first time. Miss Kinnean begins to work with him individually. On April 1, the bakery workers decide to play a trick on Charlie and force him to turn on the mixer. Suddenly, Charlie succeeds and the owner promotes him. Gradually, Charlie begins to understand that for friends he is just a clown, over whom you can joke with impunity and evil. I have reached a new level of development, but anger and suspicion were the first feelings I had for the world around me. He recalls the most offensive cases, hardens and ceases to trust people. Dr. Strauss conducts psychotherapy sessions with Charlie. Although Gordon's intelligence is increasing, he knows very little about himself and is still emotionally a child. Charlie's past, previously hidden from him, begins to clear up. I'm like a man who slept half his life and is now trying to find out who he was while he slept. By the end of April, Charlie has changed so much that the bakery workers begin to treat him with suspicion and hostility. Charlie reminisces about his mother. She did not want to admit that her son was born mentally retarded, beat the boy, forced him to study at a regular school. Charlie's father tried unsuccessfully to protect his son. Charlie is in love with his former teacher Alice Kinnean. She is not at all as old as Charlie thought before the operation. Alice is younger than him, and he begins an inept courtship. The thought of having a relationship with a woman terrifies Charlie. This is due to the mother, who was afraid that her mentally retarded son would harm her younger sister. She put it into the boy's head that women were not to be touched. Charlie has changed, but the prohibition that has settled in the subconscious is still in effect. Charlie notices that the head chef of the bakery is stealing from the owner. Charlie warns him, threatening to tell the owner. The theft stops, but the relationship deteriorates completely. This is the first major decision Charlie made on his own. He is learning to trust himself. Alice pushes Charlie to make a decision. He confesses his love to her, but she understands that the time for such a relationship has not yet come. The owner of the bakery was a friend of the uncle, promised to take care of Charlie, and kept his promise. However, now Charlie has changed strangely. The workers are afraid of him and threaten to quit if Charlie stays. The owner asks him to leave. Charlie tries to talk to former friends, but they hate the fool, who suddenly became smarter than all of them. Reason drove a wedge between me and everyone I knew and loved, kicked me out of the house. Never before have I felt so alone. Charlie hasn't been working for 2 weeks. He tries to escape from loneliness in the arms of Alice, but nothing comes of them. Gordon seems to see himself and Alice from the side, through the eyes of the former Charlie, who is horrified and does not allow them to finally get closer. Gordon recalls how his sister hated and was ashamed of him. Charlie is getting smarter. Soon, people around him cease to understand him. Because of this, he quarrels with Alice. She feels like a complete fool next to him. Charlie distances himself from everyone he knew and immerses himself in his studies. On June 10, Professor Nimmer and Dr. Strauss are flying to a medical symposium in Chicago. The main exhibits at this major event will be Charlie and Mouse Algernon. On the plane, Charlie remembers how his mother tried in vain to cure him, to make him smarter. She spent almost all the family savings, which her father, a hairdressing equipment salesman, wanted to open his own hairdresser. The mother left Charlie alone, giving birth again and proving that she was capable of having healthy children. Charlie dreamed of turning into a normal person so that his mother would finally love him. Every day, I learned something new about myself, and the memories that started as small ripples wash over me in a 10-point storm. At the symposium, Charlie reveals such vast knowledge and high intelligence that professors and academics pale in comparison. This does not prevent Professor Nimmer from calling him his creation, equating Charlie with the mouse Algernon. The professor is sure that before the operation, Charlie was an empty shell and did not exist as a person. Many consider Charlie to be arrogant and intolerant, but he simply cannot find his place in life. At the report on the operation to increase intelligence, Gordon feels like a guinea pig. In protest, he releases Algernon from the cage, then finds him first and flies home. In New York, Gordon sees a newspaper with a photo of his mother and sister. He remembers how his mother forced his father to take him to an orphanage. After the birth of a healthy daughter, a mentally retarded son aroused in her only disgust. Charlie rents a 4-room furnished apartment near the library. In one of the rooms, he arranges a 3-dimensional maze for Algernon. Charlie does not even tell Alice Kinnigan about his whereabouts. Soon he meets a neighbor, a free artist. To get rid of loneliness and make sure of his ability to be with a woman, Charlie enters into a relationship with a neighbor. The former Charlie does not interfere with the relationship. Since this woman is indifferent to him, he only watches what is happening from the side. Charlie finds a father who divorced his wife and opened a hair salon in a poor neighborhood. He does not recognize his son, but he does not dare to open up. Gordon discovers that after drinking heavily, he turns into a mentally handicapped Charlie. Alcohol releases his subconscious, which has not yet caught up with his rapidly growing IQ. Nothing in us disappears without a trace. The operation covered Charlie with a thin layer of culture and education, but he remained. He watches and waits. Now Charlie tries not to get drunk. He walks for a long time, goes to a cafe. One day he sees the waiter, a mentally retarded guy, drop a tray with plates, and the visitors begin to make fun of him. It is amazing how people of high moral principles never allow themselves to take advantage of a person born without arms, legs, or eyes, easily and thoughtlessly make fun of a person born without a mind. This encourages Gordon to continue his scientific work in order to benefit such people. Having made a decision, he meets with Alice. He explains that he loves her, but between them stands a little boy, Charlie, who is afraid of women because his mother beat him. Charlie starts working in the lab. He has no time for a mistress, and she leaves him. Algernon begins incomprehensible bouts of aggression. At times he can't get past his labyrinth. Charlie takes the mouse to the lab. He asks Professor Nimmer what they were going to do with him if they failed. It turned out that Charlie was destined for a place in the State Social School and Hospital Warren. Gordon visits this establishment to know what awaits him. Algernon gets worse. He refuses to eat. Charlie, on the other hand, reaches the peak of mental activity. It is as if all the knowledge I have acquired in recent months has combined and lifted me to the pinnacle of light and understanding. August 26, Gordon finds an error in Professor Nemours' calculations. Charlie realizes that he will soon begin a mental regression, the same as Algernon's. September 15, Algernon dies. Charlie buries him in the backyard. September 22, Gordon visits his mother and sister. He discovers that his mother has senile insanity. Her sister has a hard time with her. She is glad that Charlie found them. The sister had no idea that her mother got rid of Charlie for her. Gordon promises to help them as long as he can. Gordon's IQ is rapidly declining. He becomes forgetful. Books, once loved, are now incomprehensible to him. Alice comes to Gordon. This time, the old Charlie does not interfere with their love. She stays for a few weeks looking after Charlie. Soon he drives Alice away. She reminds him of abilities that cannot be returned. More and more errors appear in the reports that Charlie still writes. In the end, they become the same as before the operation. November 20, Charlie returns to the bakery. The workers who used to bully him now take care and protect him. However, Charlie still remembers that he was smart. He doesn't want to be pitied and goes to the Warren. He writes a farewell letter to Miss Kinnian, asking for flowers to be placed on Algernon's grave.